Welcome to my YouTube channel, dear viewers. And before we begin this incredible journey into a story that has carried wisdom across generations, I kindly ask you to subscribe, click the notification bell, and stay tuned till the very end. The crow, restless with his thoughts, starts to follow the peacock, studying his every move, watching as people gather around to admire the splendid feathers, as children smile and laugh pointing at the fan-like display, as the peacock itself seems to bask in its natural glory. And with each passing day, the crow's envy deepens, and he no longer sees any value in his own existence. Soon, he makes a decision. He will shed his own identity and attempt to live like a peacock. And so he plucks some of the fallen feathers, sticks them into his own wings, and walks into the company of peacocks pretending to belong. But of course, nature has its own way of revealing truth. The peacocks immediately recognize the crow as an imposter, mocking him for trying to cover his true feathers, and the crow is chased away, rejected both by the peacocks who see him as false and by the crows who see him as disloyal. Alone, stripped of dignity, and caught between two worlds, the crow finally realizes that in trying to become something he was never meant to be, he lost the value of what he already had. This moment of clarity strikes deeply not just for the crow, but for every listener of this story. Because in truth, how often do we do the same? How often do we dress ourselves in borrowed feathers of other people's success, copy their ways, imitate their styles, wishing desperately to belong somewhere else, only to end up losing touch with our authentic self? This story, though simple on the surface, is layered with meaning. The crow represents every individual who underestimates their worth, who feels overshadowed by others, who sees only the sparkle outside and ignores the quiet brilliance within, while the peacock represents the glitter of external admiration, the tempting but sometimes misleading lure of beauty, wealth, or fame. We live in a world where social media constantly parades the highlights of others' lives, where comparison has become a daily habit, and where people often measure themselves not by their own growth, but by the seemingly perfect lives of others. And in that very environment, the crow and the peacock remind us of the dangers of envy, of the emptiness that comes when we chase after what was never meant for us. The crow had gifts that were uniquely his. He was intelligent, adaptable, resourceful, able to survive in diverse environments where many birds could not, and his voice, though harsh to some, was strong and distinctive, carrying across great distances. But none of these mattered to him because he was blinded by the dazzle of the peacock's feathers. Isn't that just like us, forgetting our resilience, our hidden strengths, our quiet talents, because our eyes are fixed on someone else's shine? As the story unfolds, we are led to reflect on the fact that every creature in the world has a role, every being has a purpose, and beauty is not uniform, it is diverse. The black feathers of the crow may not shimmer like a rainbow, but they are sleek, practical, and serve him well in flight, while the peacock's ornate feathers, though stunning, are heavy and slow him down. The crow can fly higher, faster, and longer, reaching places the peacock never could. Yet he failed to see the value in that. This contrast is profound because it teaches us that what seems like an advantage in one context may be a limitation in another, and what seems ordinary may, in truth, be extraordinary when seen from the right perspective. The peacock may capture attention for a moment, but the crow's adaptability ensures survival in all corners of the earth, and in that lies a lesson for us, that our worth is not measured by applause or attention, but by the essence of what we can truly do and become. But what makes this story resonate deeply across ages and cultures is not just the lesson of self-acceptance, but the reminder of how destructive envy can be. Envy corrodes the heart, it blinds us to gratitude, it robs us of joy, and it leaves us always restless, always dissatisfied, even when we may already have so much to be thankful for. The crow's misery did not come from lack, but from comparison, and in that lies a timeless truth. Comparison is the thief of joy. Think of how often people today feel inadequate, scrolling through glamorous photos of others, believing that their own lives are dull, their own achievements small, their own beauty plain, when in reality, much like the crow, They possess unique qualities that the world deeply needs. The crow's journey reminds us to pause, to recognize our blessings, to understand that trying to live someone else's story only leads to rejection, but living our own story with courage leads to fulfillment. Now, what can we, as modern listeners, truly take from this? Imagine the crow had instead celebrated his identity, used his gifts of intelligence and adaptability. He would never have faced rejection or loneliness. He could have found pride in being who he was meant to be, just as we should. Instead of envying the peacock, he could have admired its beauty without diminishing his own, for admiration and envy are different. Admiration inspires us, envy destroys us. If only the crow had embraced admiration over envy, he would have found peace. And this is where the moral strikes powerfully for children and adults alike. Embrace your uniqueness, honor your own strengths, stop comparing your journey with others. For what makes you different is what makes you valuable. As a storyteller, I cannot help but see the crow's mistake as a mirror held up to us all. How many of us have tried to wear the feathers of others, thinking that it would make us shine, only to discover that authenticity is the only real path to acceptance? How many times have we rejected our own gifts, blinded by the spectacle of someone else's? And how many times have we longed for applause, forgetting that quiet fulfillment is more precious than loud approval? The crow and the peacock speak across centuries, whispering into our modern ears the same truth, that self-acceptance is freedom, and freedom is happiness. So, my dear viewers, as you reflect on this story, let it not be just another fable you heard and forgot, but a seed planted deep within you. Remember it the next time envy creeps into your heart. Remember it when you feel your life is less colorful. Remember it when you are tempted to copy someone else's path. And remind yourself that your feathers, though different, are exactly what the world needs. Let children learn early that they do not need to imitate their friends. They do not need to measure their worth by the standards of others. And let adults remember, too, that life becomes richer when we celebrate diversity, when we honor each creature's unique role, and when we embrace our own story with courage. And now, as we reach the end of this tale, I want to leave you with the final words that echo not only from the fable, but from the wisdom of life itself. Be yourself, for in being yourself you will find joy, strength, and purpose. And no matter how dazzling another's feathers may be, they can never replace the beauty of your own. Thank you for staying with me through this reflection. Please don't forget to subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and inspire the soul. And as always, may you walk forward with wisdom and peace. And so, my dear viewers, the timeless moral of today. A story can be summed up in these final words. Moral story, the crow and the peacock.